The following podcast is a next level production.
We're getting tons of missing person complaints in a 3-block radius. I'm thinking hysteria.
What are they up to?
Who?
The Umbrella Academy. Use your head, number 2. First Marcus, now they're grabbing civilians off the streets.
Number 2. I suppose that means you're number 1 now.
Marcus is missing. I'm taking the reins. What? You think it should be you?
You had your chance once. Didn't turn out too well now, did it?
Hey, panelists, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this is going to be a spoiler-full podcast about the Umbrella Academy Season 3, Episode 3. And this week we're going to focus, obviously, on Episode 3, which was entitled Pocket Full of Lightning. So, Steve, do you want to give us the synopsis of this particular episode?
Sure. As people start disappearing in waves, Five and Lila reluctantly team up to solve their time travel problem, and Klaus sees a new Klaus. It must be a word. I copied it directly out of IMDb, but that's crazy. Klaus sees a new side of his father. So,
yeah, well, that is true. We do.
We do. Yes.
Yeah, and it was fun to see that too, because how often do we get to see a different version of Reginald Hargreaves?
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of brief as far as the synopsis goes. There's a lot more involved with this particular episode than just Five and Lila teaming up. There's a lot more chance encounters. We do see somebody else at the very end that gets involved, who we've seen from last season.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Diego working with both Lila and Five. At a certain point as well. And then Luther finds out about Victor. And
yes.
We get a little cute scene with them about that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more involved in what we get in this particular synopsis of the episode, but I really did enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that, we should move into initial thoughts. So what were your thoughts?
I mean, it's a great, it picks up almost, right where we left off with explaining the grandfather paradox, which I think is super cool. I love that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that and when we get into discussion points. But yeah, I liked it. It was, it's one of those things that a lot happened, and it's kind of moving the story forward, but there's a lot of things that we're going to pick up in the next episode. Like a lot of things we're going to find out that are going to explain what happened in this episode.
Yeah.
That will get further fleshed out.
Yeah. My overall thoughts, I had a good time watching it for the first time. Well, first few times, actually, because I'd seen it a long time ago. But when I watched it again, it brought up the memories of the actual episode itself and the funniness of it, because we had those specific moments within it. And like I said, Luther is one of them, because he leaves Sloane's bedroom and he's got that little pep in his step.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, can I have some of those? And then, of course, we get the wave of everything, like at the, what would you call it? Like the newspaper guy.
I was trying to figure out what the name of those guys are. I mean, you're from New Jersey, New York area. Is it just street vendor or
usually it's like a street vendor that they have like newspapers, magazines, your candy, cigarettes, and all that stuff. They're like, it's like a news booth or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'll have those condoms. Yes, for sex. But he kind of misses what's going on around him with the wave, and a lot of people missing at that point too.
Yeah.
And so we see a lot of this wave of power that's going around them that's wiping things away. We've mentioned it in the last episode too, which was pretty interesting too, because we get more of this, and it's going to be something that continues on within the season itself, which we do get answers for, but
later.
we don't want to get too far into that, but we do get answers for that.
Yeah, and this is actually one of my discussion points, a little bit of it, so I don't want to go too deep into this scene, but this is it's a great scene.
And with that, we'll go right into like our highlighted points or top fives or points that we find of like most interest. So
you can go ahead and start this week. I think I started last week, so
sure. Well, you already spoke about it. The whole Elmore and time traveling and how the grandfather paradox happened. So it's kind of like a whole Leave It to Beaver kind of setup, if you think about it, and how Five narrates it about how the commission explains a grandfather paradox.
I love that they have a whole volume about paradoxes. This is just one paradox. They have a whole volume of to explain paradoxes. I think they said paradoxes, I think is what they said. So
yeah. But I just loved it and completely, and how they were able to portray it. And it's kind of like one of those things, like when you sat down in school, of like, you shouldn't do this because this will happen, and then it's like and it's all pretty much played out, kind of like a mini movie in itself,
or like a play, because at the end when the curtains close, we see the logos of the Sparrow Academy and the Umbrella Academy on it, so it's almost like a play. And I just it was really, really cool. I loved that whole dramatization of it, and I will admit, the first time it faked me out, I was like, did this really happen? And then at the end, of course, Five says, well, but this is a fiction. This never actually happened, because if it actually happened, the whole universe would break. So
exactly. Yeah. So if they did get true images, the universe had already broken.
yeah.
Next one.
One of mine, just leapfrogging about what you were talking about first, about Luther leaving Sloane after having sex, and he's walking and they're playing the song "Do You Believe in Magic," which I don't remember. That's not the same song that was after he and Allison had sex. Was it a different song? I don't remember.
It was definitely a different song.
But I have to admit, I watched this today to do my notes, and every other time I've watched it, I totally missed the bum vomiting.
Yep.
When he's walking past, and then he's like, "Have a good night," and the couple is just kind of looking at him like this bum has just vomited all over the sidewalk, But I just love his goofiness with the street vendor. We know he's had sex before, but I just love Luther's. It's just that goofiness about him that he's, and of course, like you already mentioned, when the wave hits, he like takes a beat and he looks around and he knows something weird has happened, but then he's like, well, okay, and he just grabs the condoms and grabs the gum and starts and runs.
He just
off.
runs away. He steals everything because the guy is gone.
And then the song starts back up again. And I love that later we see him making a mixtape for Sloane, and Diego's giving him crap about it. You're making a mixtape, and Lionel Richie, really, and like dancing on the ceiling. Oh, that's going in. That's definitely going in. It's just I just love this. Just Luther throughout this whole episode. His puppy dogness and his goofiness, and then especially like there at the end when she's trying to mouth at him to run because she knows her family wants to kill all of them, and he's like, oh, and he just says out loud, oh, run. I love what we're gonna get with this relationship that we're gonna see. It's a much different relationship than what we saw between him and Allison in the first season. And so the reaction to it is different. It's just good. And I love that. The actor's name has escaped me. Tom, whatever, is just having fun with this character right now.
Yeah, he's definitely having fun with the character, and I think it happens even for the rest of the season too. Mm-hmm. He takes it a little lighter in comparison that we had Luther before. He was always so serious, but still aloof, in my opinion. But I think the character became more of a joke unto itself at certain points. But there are still some serious aspects to it.
Yeah.
But, they kind of play on that, which is good, too, because you can't have the same character at the same time all the time. And we do get differences in certain characters. Like, look at Allison. Her attitude and her character has changed drastically in comparison to the last two seasons. Mm-hmm. Like, look at... when Allison and Victor approach number 2 and number 3. Well, in this case, number 1 and number 2, because Ben from the Sparrows decides, I'm the new number one and you're the new number two.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're talking about the exchange for Marcus, but there is no Marcus.
Right. Right.
They don't want to state that. They don't want to go into that. And but Allison's coming off all very hostile.
Yeah, really hostile. She's like, "We'll send him back to you in pieces."
Yeah,
and, yeah.
And Victor's like trying to stop her.
Yeah. So I love this switch. We see her drinking more, obviously, and we're going to see her drink more and more throughout the season. And of course, she does this turn to the dark side. Victor talks about, when did you develop this hair trigger and all that, and she's like, you used to be the soft-spoken one or the level-headed one, something like that. And she's like, well, that never worked for me. So
everybody's changing their directive and their course of their character within this particular season. And it's kind of strange, but it's kind of fun for the fact that, like, we see that with Luther, we see that with Allison. Definitely Victor, who was formerly Vanya. Klaus is typical Klaus, in my opinion. And the best is the relationship that Five has with Lila too, and that was my favorite part of this, because he has to go in and talk to Lila, and he goes, I need to have somebody that I can actually talk to,
right? And
he doesn't want to because he hates her, and they both hate each other. And then she's taking a bath, and it erupts into this kind of quick kind of fight. But the fact is, you see Diego walking down the hall. We're trying to get to Lila's. He goes, wait, you just both came out of the bathroom and she was in the bath. What were you guys doing in there?
Yeah.
Like Five would have anything to do it Lila that way.
And I love that exchange between Five and Lila there in the hallway before they leave. And by the way, at what point did she get dressed? She got dressed at some point,
it kind of just happened.
But I love that exchange where he says, the handler, she's talking about how they shot her mother, the handler, and he's like, who had just killed you. And then I went back in time and brought you back. And then he says, oh, and by the way, the handler never loved you, but Diego, he might actually love you.
Yeah.
And then he just walks away.
You can see it in her face, though. She's like, huh? Yeah. It was one of those, it was one of those awakening things for her, because for the longest time in the very beginning, she was like, I'm hating on Diego. Now I think it kind of sparked something of like, oh, okay, we have this. We do have this. So, and then on top of that, they have to deal with the son, quote unquote, son.
Stanley, right?
Stanley.
Yeah.
There was a cool point within the episode that I do like, and that was when you do see it with Ben, and I'm forgetting the girl with the crows, but Faye. Okay, so Faye and Ben, they're having the conversation about how he's taking over. But Mom shows up, and they do see how strange Mom is, the robot is acting around.
Yeah,
them.
I have this in my points, so I can kind of expound on this here. That whole scene starts with Ben, and it's almost a throwaway line, but it just shows how unobservant and I don't want to say unintelligent, but how he's just his thinking is in the wrong direction, because his first initial thought is, oh, the Umbrella Academy is kidnapping people off the streets now when they're hearing the news reports of people disappearing. I'm like, what? Why would they be kidnapping just random people off the streets, and where would they be putting them? But okay, man, that's your thought. And then of course, Faye becomes the number 2 role, but then Grace tells them straight up that Marcus was taken by God, and that's in air quotes I'm using there. Yeah. But I love, they don't believe her initially, and then it's not until towards the end of the almost halfway through the episode, or 3/4 way through the episode, where they actually go down to the basement to try to find the briefcase, and they see the ball of fire, and they see her kneeling there praying and speaking in tongues to this ball, and that's when they realize, oh, okay, she was telling the truth. Marcus is gone. So
and thankfully that kind of should end the feud between the Umbrella and the Sparrows.
You would think, but the exact opposite happens.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. It's like, you guys created this, so we're against you even more so now.
Yeah, exactly. Because they ask her, when did it appear? And she says that 2 days ago, the same time that our new visitors appear. And so they realize that, okay, this has something. They don't know exactly what, but they know, okay, this has something to do with the Umbrella Academy. And so that just sets them off.
Well, they should always look at the person that's in charge or who they've been trying to like drug at this point, which would be Reginald, and which leads me to my other point that I really liked, Klaus and Reggie.
That was a great series of scenes too. Yeah, go ahead.
The fact that, you know, it's like for Klaus to get in, he gets this whole like wetsuit and snorkel stuff to go into what looks like the sewer. He goes, "Oh, I've had worse," and he goes in and he sneaks into the Sparrow Academy house and is able to get into Reginald's. But he was just like, "Wait, you're not the dad that I know." He's starting to realize, Klaus gets that whole feeling. It's like, of course, you know, Reginald's like, "Well, you want some ice cream? I could get you some ice cream. Let's have some ice cream." And it's like, and then they're there cuddled up on the couch watching TJ Hooker and having ice cream.
Yeah.
And you can see Klaus is like, "Wow, this is something I never had with my dad. This is not my dad, but you are my dad."
Yeah, and it's interesting that, you know, the whole this whole storyline is going to progress because he teaches him how to hide, how to not take the pills.
Yes.
You know, and that's going to pay off at the end, actually, in a bad way for Klaus, because this is the father that he always wanted. This, even though he's a drugged up, you know, soft-headed kind of father, but what's going to happen by the end of the season when he weans himself off the drugs is he's going to turn back into that a-hole that he was in season 1 and that we saw in season 2 when they met him in 63. Yeah. So it's really almost a bad thing for Klaus, but so he's going to lose that father figure. It does benefit
Klaus later on too, as we do see. It's him developing his powers that Reggie helps out, if we remember. Later on.
Yeah, but that's in the, I don't think that's, is that with this guy? Yeah, I can't remember. Is that because this guy, but you realize also the ulterior, again, we're getting into spoilers, folks. If you watch the whole, hopefully you've watched the whole season, but really all Reginald Hargreaves undrugged is doing is letting him enhance his power so he can use him.
Oh yeah, he does.
You know, so really, it does benefit Klaus, but at the same time, it doesn't, because he ends up getting thrown into, the dead zone because of it. Because, you know, Reginald's, well, I don't need you anymore, and but that's several episodes down the road. So
exactly,
but yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, it does kind of benefit Klaus a little bit. But
yeah, because he does come through at the very end too with his abilities.
Yeah.
Another point that I like to bring up too, but this is the very end. We do lose 2 of the Sparrow people when Harlan comes out, because we do see Harlan check in and he puts himself down as Lester.
Yeah, and I had totally forgot about this until I listened to TV Podcast Industries, because of course they're doing an episode by they're much faster and they're ahead of us. But I listened to their episode 2. I think it was their episode 1 and their episode 2 recap, and I realized that in the season it's not until this episode that he's revealed as Harlan. So they're calling him Lester. Yes. In the first 2 episodes. And I remember listening to their podcast going, no, his name's not Lester, that's Harlan, because I forgot that it hadn't been revealed yet that he's Harlan. Yeah. So I realized that when I watched this episode, I was like, oh, that's right. We don't know that he's Harlan yet. So
yeah, the whole reintroduction to Harlan as it is, but he's older now. We know this. We know who he is. He does show up at that whole standoff in the very at the front lobby of the hotel. With the Sparrows and the Umbrella Academy.
And I thought that was great when, you know, there's, of course, Marcus is missing. So all we have Ben, Faye, Alfonso, Jamie, Sloan, and then Chris Cube. That's what I'm calling him. Yeah. Chris Cube. So we have these 6, and they're like, well, where's the rest of yours? And Luther's something like, what are you taking roll or something like that? Yeah. It's either Luther or Diego. I think it probably was Diego who said, what are you taking roll? You know, something like that. And then, like you said, we lose Alfonso and Jamie. Harlan kills them because they don't get out of the way.
Luther saves Sloan.
Saves Sloan.
And Jamie and
Ben and
Francis are the ones that die. terribly.
Alfonso and Jamie are the ones who died.
Alfonso? Oh,
yeah, it was Alfonso, because you see his face all melt.
Yeah.
So the ones that escape are Ben, Faye, and Chris. Right? Yeah, because that's no, Sloane is they leave Sloane behind.
Oh yeah, with the umbrellas. Yeah.
The three of them leave, and they leave Sloane there in the Umbrella Academy. So because that's going to come into play later as well.
Yeah. But the fact that, you see how harsh his power is in comparison. And it's at the very end, so that you get this whole eruption, and, Harlan just unleashes, and it does basically take out Alfonso and Jamie.
Yep.
And then I think at this point, at the very end of the last minute, Victor realizes who it is.
Yeah, Victor says Harlan, and now of course I think probably the first time I watched this, when I was binging through the whole thing, it probably didn't hit me immediately that was Sissy's son until the next episode, because in the next episode we're going to get the whole. I believe it's the next episode we're going to get the whole
like answers of what happened and why he's there.
Yeah, how he got to this point. So I probably, when I first watched it in the binge, I probably didn't, when she said Harlan, it probably didn't click in my head. But of course, these subsequent rewatches, I've been like, yeah, that's Harlan. There he is. But, his power is very similar to Vanya. So remember, he got it from Vanya.
Yes,
he got his power from Victor. Excuse me. Well, I guess she was Vanya when she gave him his powers. So yeah, but yeah, and there's that moment between Allison and Victor where he's like, well, we need to go get the rest of the team. And Allison's like, no, you're the most powerful one of us all. We don't need the rest of the team. But her power kills. Like her power is a destructive power. So it's just an interesting turn that we see again. It's little subtle things that they're doing to show us that Allison is having this turn to the dark side.
Yeah. Let's talk about more or less with Victor too. We already talked about a little bit of Luther coming in, because he hasn't seen Victor since the change.
Yeah, and it's Diego who tells him, "Oh, it's Victor now," and he goes, okay. And at first he just kind of rolls with it, and he doesn't say anything. But then it's later when he and Diego are alone together that he's like, should we have a party or something? Should we, and Diego's just like, you just want to have an excuse to throw a party. But yeah, I love that whole conversation he has with Victor where he's like, love the haircut. It frames your face.
Yeah.
And you can just see, like, it's one of those subtle things that Elliot Page does, that is you can see how he is just beaming at the pride his brother is showing him.
Yes.
And the acceptance that his brother, and like, there was a moment there where I'm kind of surprised they didn't hug. Like, I really thought Victor was going to go in for the hug there, because it just, he gets this smile on his face and he just starts, but yeah, it was really a touching moment.
Yeah. That was pretty much for all my points, but yeah.
That's all of mine.
I'm at the point of like just a couple of notes. I don't have any quotes, unfortunately. I think I splintered them in there throughout the whole time.
I've got a couple of quotes, but I have one note that we haven't talked about yet within my notes, and that's that I didn't notice until this watch of I only noticed it because of having seen the rest of the season, that in Reginald's study, when they cut back to it, Klaus is looking at the painting of the white buffalo.
Yes.
And that's going to come into play later in the season, the white buffalo. And I was like, oh, there's the foreshadowing that we were getting of the white buffalo. So
yeah, the great white buffalo.
Yep.
Great white buffalo.
Yeah, that's the only note that I have.
Machine too.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only note I have that we haven't already talked about.
Yeah. The only thing that I thought, we already talked about Lila and 5 a little bit but they had a conversation about using his power and how she mimics, and that's how they're able to work together, because they said they wouldn't be able to do anything with the briefcases, because that was the idea of getting them together in order to make one of them work.
Right.
So if they double the powers and she mimics his powers, they're able to do it tenfold.
Yeah.
To make those work. And of course, it's like, she starts laying in on 5 about shagging a mannequin, and then 5 mentioning about her adopted mother always trying to kill her or have her killed. and then, you already mentioned too about, Five mentioning about Diego loving her.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And then they have that moment. They have that moment where Five is like, well, how are we, or Lila is like, how are we going to trust each other to do this? Because they were going to have full trust in each other to do this, to make this whole thing work. And then Five says, well, mutual white hot hate is just as honest as trust. And she goes, okay. And so like, it's literally their hatred for each other is what keeps them honest. And that's why they're able to do this and get to the commission.
Yeah.
There at the end.
Yeah.
The quotes, the couple of quotes I have.
Mm-hmm.
One is from Allison, and she's talking to Five, and she says, you can't drag us through hell because you have an itch only an apocalypse can scratch, and then expect us to deal with the fallout. That was great. An itch only an apocalypse can scratch. And then when Diego is talking to Stanley, and Stanley says something about mom wouldn't let me just wander the streets. She doesn't trust me. And he says, that's because she's a terrible person and I'm amazing. Remember that. And this whole thing of Diego thinking he's being a great dad because he's letting Stanley wander off and do whatever he wants. And then, of course, it's Stanley who's the one who kind of starts the confrontation there in the hotel because he drops the Molotov cocktail and burns the tapestry. And that was hilarious. I didn't mention that moment when we have that showdown and the tourists are all taking pictures of him. You know,
and the fact that the kid already knew how to make a pipe bomb. Apparently,
yeah, little delinquent.
But the funniest is too with Diego, and you talk about Stanley. He tries to get rid of Stanley. It's like, here, he goes, $8? Really? What am I supposed to do with $8? He goes, kid, $8 is like a month's salary for a kid.
Yeah.
He goes, really?
Crazy stuff.
Yeah. But that's all I have had so far. That's it.
Yeah, that's all I've got for this one. I didn't see any feedback.
No. Same here. I checked email. We didn't get an email.
Okay.
So, we will tell you people how to submit your feedback if you choose. But this was kind of quick. But for that, well, let's go right into it. How can people submit their feedback?
Well, obviously, you're listening to us on your podcast player of choice, whether that be Spotify, Google Play, or Apple Podcasts. So if you can give us a review there, that's one way you can give us feedback. We'd love to get a 5-star review or some kind words there. We will be notified by those reviewer systems, and we'll give you a shout out.
Exactly. You can also check us out on our website, panels2pixelspodcast.com.
We are on Facebook at facebook.com/panels2pixels. And when we remember to put up a post, we put up a post there to tell you what episode we'll be reviewing that week.
Exactly. We are also found on Twitter at panels, the number 2 pixels. So panels 2 pixels, the number 2 in the middle is panels and pixels.
And we have an email address, which is panels2pixels1@gmail.com. That's panels2pixels1. And the 2 is TO spelled out right in the middle with the number 1@gmail.com.
You can find us on YouTube. All you have to do is search for Panels to Pixels podcast. If you're there and you like what we do there, which pretty much is the podcast on YouTube form, but we also do interviews and we have other videos on there as well. Subscribe and give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing.
Absolutely. We are on Instagram at Panels2Pixels Podcast, all spelled out in words at Panels2Pixels Podcast.
And we highly recommend everybody else check out the nextlevelradioonline.com website for all the other podcasts that are on there. Wilhelm, the Melting Pot Podcast Zero, and so much more.
Coming up next will be episode 4, and I don't have the title in front of me because I forgot to pull it up.
It's okay.
Episode 4 of season 3 of the Umbrella Academy will be next up at some point. We will have She-Hulk also. She-Hulk season 1, episode 1 will be coming out as well. So you may hear that before you hear the next episode of Umbrella Academy.
Correct. And where else can listeners hear us, Steve?
Well, I sent voicemails to our the various other friendly podcasts, such as the Walking Dead cast, which is right now covering Tales of the Walking Dead. I send them voicemails for each of the episodes. I'm trying to keep up with Run for Your Lives, which is on the Adrenaline Cinema podcast network, and not Adrenaline Cinema, it's Pirate Radio. Pirate Pirate Radio podcast.
Pirate Core Entertainment.
Pirate Core Entertainment. Man, I'm sorry. Pirate Core Entertainment Podcast Network has Run for Your Lives, and I try to keep up with them. They just recently did a review of the Netflix series 2-Minute Horror Stories, and their episode was called Fix, and I sent them a voicemail for that, so you can hear me there, and you'll hear my voice pop up on various other podcasts.
And as Steve had mentioned, you can find me on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast in the Pirate Core Entertainment Network. Therein we cover action, adventure, suspense, thriller, all those stuff that, make your adrenaline going. We still have episodes to put up, so just check out the actual Facebook page, which would be Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. So go to facebook.com/Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, or go to the piratecoreentertainment.com website, and you can check that out, along with all the other podcasts like Steve had already mentioned, Run for Your Lives, Watched It in the 80s, Fantasy Picks Movie Edition, and as well, Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. You could also hear me on the Podcastica Network as we cover Sandman Cast. So that we're covering the Sandman show that is on Netflix. So look out for that. We're covering this entire season.
Very cool.
All right. Well, that's it for our show. I know it's kind of short, but we will definitely be getting you out another episode soon too, when it comes to She-Hulk and for the Umbrella Academy. I'm sorry if these are kind of slow to come out. Life found a way, so I've been trying to keep up with editing and get these out to you. So thank you for your patience. So as usual, same podcast, different panel, different pixel. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this was Panels to Pixels podcast, and we'll see you on the next panel. Good night, everybody.
Good night.